light on his bum, because why not? How can you improve your art? Well, I don't know, what are you asking me for? But actually, maybe I do know. Well, what is this about? In my Discord server, there is a art critique channel, and you guys have been sending some stuff there, and not only I, but also other people from the community have been replying and giving tips to people. But of course, it's a bit limited as this is just Discord. I can just do a few overpaints maybe and just text some stuff. But it's not necessarily the ideal way to give a real good critique. And another thing that I had open was that you guys can submit your art in the form. You will find the link below in the description under art submissions. You can do that so that I can make a video like this, where I give you guys tips and yeah, give you some advice on what you can improve maybe on a certain piece of art or some general tips. Okay, why do I have the audacity? I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, because first of all, I am not a professional. I have never officially worked in the art industry or something of the sort. I have never really received portfolio reviews myself, and I haven't actually studied art in a professional context. However, I do have over 10 years of experience in art by now, because I am a self-taught artist. I have been drawing for more than half my life. I think my art is okay. I like my art, and apparently some of you guys also like my art. And I have been giving tips and teaching art since like the very beginning, since I have been becoming better at art. I have been also teaching it to my boyfriend and my siblings, and I've always enjoyed giving people tips. So yeah, it was just an open possibility. If you guys want tips from me, you can submit it there, and then maybe I will make more videos of this sort if you like this also. But this is a disclaimer that I am not a professional. This is all based on my own experience. I have watched tutorials, read how to draw books. I have taught myself, but I am simply not a professional. Take this all with a grain of salt. This is not guaranteed to be the right or wrong way. A lot of stuff will also boil down to your preferences and art style. Some stuff I will just simply not know just from getting your pieces, of course, but I will try my best to maybe give you some tips. Maybe this is helpful for you. And yeah, this is the first time I am making this sort of video, so let me know below in the comments if you like this sort of stuff, if you would like to see more of that, and if you would also like to submit your art pieces, then you can find the link in the description under art submission. If you don't want your piece in a video like this, you can also just join my Discord server, go into the channel Art Critique, send your stuff there, and I or other people from the community, but mostly I also do it, will give you some tips there. If you don't know me yet, I'm Laura, a digital artist from Germany. I enjoy making art tutorials, art tips, speed paints, everything of the sort here on YouTube, art challenges and fun stuff too. So if you like that sort of stuff, maybe consider subscribing if you haven't already. And if you like my videos, leave a like so I know that you enjoy this kind of stuff. But without further ado, I'd say let's get started. Nila, what do you think? Should we get started? I think that was a yes. I will be roasting you today. I will be roasting you. Just kidding. This would be a different video format, which I also offer, by the way. So if you want your art roasted for fun, and only if you can handle it, of course, you can also submit it below, or if you just want a free shout out. But today we're here to give advice, and I have 4 submissions for today that we're gonna have a look at. Turns out I completely misjudged how much time this would take me, so I couldn't do 3 or 4 pieces in one video, or else it would take me over 1 or 2 hours for just one video. So we're doing 1 piece per video instead, because I don't want to do it half-heartedly, you know? So let's get into this. And let's see if I can somehow help you guys. This is the first submission for today. This is, by the way, the form that you will use if you want to submit your stuff. This submission is by KKami. You will then enter your submission here, and then you can choose between 3 choices. Either help me improve, which is this format of the video, then you can choose to just get a free shout out at the end of one of my videos, or you can choose to get roasted for fun basically. But today we're here to help improve. Let's see if they have more info for us. I personally struggle with feet and clothes, even though I use mouse and can only access browser art platforms like Magma. I don't know Magma, to be honest, but okay, it's a browser platform. I am still determined to get good at everything bad you see in my art. Okay, ambitious. Okay, feet and clothes. I'm not even sure. Did you see feet and clothes in this piece? Okay, so you are avoiding the feet and avoiding the clothes. Okay. Wait, and you're using mouse? Damn. Okay, we have to consider that because that's way harder, of course, if you don't have an actual graphic tablet with such a graphic pen, basically. So props for that you're drawing this with the mouse, honestly. Here, the socials and contact if you want to check out their own channels. I will also probably link them in the description below so you can copy paste or click them directly. Let's have a look at the piece and how I can maybe help you out. I took this piece directly and just copy pasted it into Photoshop, and what I'm noticing right now is that it's pretty small, isn't it? Because this is the size I got from just copy pasting this in. I just want to quickly test if I were to zoom how bad the quality gets. Okay, so if I zoom in, it gets pretty pixelated, right? So maybe you send it this way because you want to prevent art theft, and that is completely fine. You don't have to send me full resolution pieces, but if this was unintentional, I would definitely recommend you to use a bigger canvas size. And maybe, I know this is just a browser tool from what I understood, I don't know which settings you have there, but if you have maybe something like DPI or PPI even, try to tune it up to maybe 300 DPI, which stands for dots per inch, or if you have PPI, it stands for pixels per inch. Basically, the higher this number, the more detail can be visualized in the same area, so that usually helps to prevent pixelated pieces, but also just making the canvas bigger helps. If I'm drawing something, I usually try to go for DIN A2 at least, because that's also good if you want to print your works later, by the way. Of course, this is a very individual decision, and this is a very complex topic. It's not that easy to answer. This is just what I have taught myself for now. It's very complex. If you want to hear more about that, I do have a video actually about it. I have a video called 5 beginner art mistakes that you need to stop doing or making, whatever. I'm gonna link it somewhere in this video, either above or in the description, so maybe check that out, because there I also talk about canvas size, quality, preventing this pixelated stuff, what is DPI, stuff like that, if that's something that's interesting to you. But yeah, maybe you did send it like this on purpose. I was just telling you just in case if you didn't know yet. I don't even know if your program has those settings, so I do realize that, of course. I know you said that you struggle with drawing clothes and feet. If you want to get better at the stuff you're bad at, I know this is not what you want to hear. You have to draw them. You might want to look up references that fit maybe also the pose that you're trying to achieve. Try studying those and practice it, honestly. I know it's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it too. If there's something that is out of your comfort zone as an artist, you just tend to avoid it, which is me too. I have that with backgrounds, to be honest. Maybe I can just give him a shirt or add his feet to give you an idea of what this could look like in your piece. And maybe if you wanna, you can try to replicate that as a practice, or maybe it helps you to see that if that is something you struggle with. So let me try to give this a go of what it could look like in your piece, you know? I'm just gonna extend the canvas here to have space for the feet. The best way you can imagine feet is actually imagine them as triangles, honestly, like this, and that can already give you an idea for the general shape. Then of course I do change that up to give more curves, sorta, and then it's more like a foot. But in the end, study some references, honestly, that's gonna be the most helpful. But yeah, try to simplify shapes in the beginning, indicate the feet as triangles at first, and then try to gradually figure out the three-dimensional shape. If I'm trying to figure out the three-dimensional shape at first, I also like adding curved lines like that, because that helps me understand the three-dimensionality of the shapes. If that is something you want to do, it just helps for the understanding, honestly. I also think it looks nice sometimes. Of course, it's not completely flat. There is the foot bridge. I forgot that in the beginning. This is what it could look like if you gave the person some feet, because I feel like you've been avoiding them on purpose. Admit it. Write it in the comments if that is true. I just decided to give the pants these slim ends, and then like for the pants, you said you also struggle with the clothes, right? It looks to me like you wanted these pants to be broad down there, like to be all baggy in the bottom. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just the look of it. So this is where I would do a lot of folds, something like this. And usually when there's one fold, that also has an influence on the next one, right? So for instance, you tried this shape here, which is not inherently wrong, like this is good, this is all good, but usually it also goes a bit in, and can have an effect on the next fold, right? Stuff like that is maybe something you can do. I wouldn't even say all my folds are good, honestly. But I would make it more straight up here, basically, and have it get baggier down there. A lot of people like to just do this for the clothes and then maybe like this, and this is also how I used to do it when I was still starting. Honestly, I call it the poopy technique because it kind of looks like a piece of poop. Not to sound mean, but this is what I did too. And I just feel like if you want to get better at drawing clothes, you have to kind of move away from that. Study some clothing references. Usually it's a lot of tuck and pull. If there's one end where stuff is folded, that usually means that there are stretches in other areas. For example, if I wanted to give him a t-shirt, by the way, nice bag here, but if you wanted to give him a t-shirt, what I do like about your art though is that you gave a lot of volume around the clothes, right? Because a lot of people would just draw the pants like super close to the skin, which isn't necessarily wrong, you know, but if you want to go for a baggier look, there's a certain volume you have to pay attention to, so you need to give a bit of space, or like even the folds, right? That is something I feel a lot of beginners do wrong, and I also did wrong in the beginning. I just wanted to mention that you're already doing a good job of that, by the way. But yeah, if I were to draw a t-shirt, it would probably look something like this. In the bottom of the shirt, I think there would be more folds because it's like landing on his hips basically, and bye-bye. It's landing on his hips basically, but like in this area around here, you could maybe say, if it's a very tight shirt, you could like indicate some folds here, you know, around the shoulder blades. But honestly, a lot of times I think it would be more loose in this region. This is where you could do some stretch marks, because like this is where it stretches down from up here, but has more folds down here basically. I don't know, this is probably not good either, to be honest, but I hope I'm getting the general idea across. Yeah, so you might want to add a shirt to this guy if that is something you struggle with. This is an idea of what you could have done if that is something you are actively avoiding. I remember that you had sent this piece also in the art critic channel, that there I ask you what this line is supposed to mean. It's not easily recognizable. I would have tried to make clearer that it's a lamp. Basically, you told me it's a street lamp of the sort, if I remember correctly. Here is a picture of what some street lamps can look like. So maybe you can give a thicker bottom and then a slimmer top or something like that. Or you know, like these details here maybe. Let's try that. I mean, it would be easier if we could just draw the bulb on top, right? And people would recognize it easier. But I do realize that it's over his head. It would be taller than him. You wouldn't really see it. Then I remember I was a bit confused on what this is, right? Comment down below if you could recognize it, but honestly, I couldn't. And if I remember correctly, you told me it's a t-shirt, right? Of course, in that case, you don't have to draw this t-shirt here, right? If this is meant to be a t-shirt, maybe we can make it clearer. Like for instance, you have this part for the arm, right? Since it's a three-dimensional shape, there's usually this opening here, right? So maybe if you indicate that, it already becomes clearer that it's a shirt. And then honestly, also some folds. I usually like doing some folds here, something like that. If the shirt is here, maybe like that. Honestly, I'm not happy with how this looks. Maybe something like this. You also have a line here. Did you mean for the shirt to be like that? I would change a bit. You could also have it go over the corner a bit. You could also add this here. The cloth usually continues also on the inside, right? So that you basically indicate that maybe this could all help with the three-dimensionality of the shape. From what I understand, here on top is our light source, right? Over here. You already did a good job of like having these gradients here, so that's good. But like honestly, I don't even think this shadow on this side is that realistic, because from what I recognize, the lamp was right next to him or like in front of him even, so it doesn't really make sense for his shadow to be on the wall here, or I'm not even sure if that is what this is supposed to be. I only realized now in editing that maybe the lamp was meant to be behind him and that he's standing sort of in front of a house facade, like a wall. In that case, of course, it makes sense to have a direct cast shadow there, but you would have to make it a bit harsher, like you would have to have the clear silhouette there. Of course, you can blend it out in some areas, but the shape of the shadow in the original drawing would be a bit too unclear in that case. If you're working in a digital program with layer modes or something like that, you might actually want to make use of that because there's stuff like hard light and stuff like that that you can play around with. But I will assume for the sake of this video, and since you mentioned here you're only doing this in Magma, I don't know Magma, but apparently it's a browser art software. I don't know what possibilities you have there. I'm just not gonna do it with layer modes, honestly, because I will assume that you probably don't have them. I would recommend going with almost white for like here, and then going more into a darker yellow the more outside you go, and then somehow blending them out, right? Something like this, basically. I do recommend making this gradient as smooth as possible. It's also okay to have it go a bit on the character, honestly. Then also some of the light would get here, right? I'm again taking a lighter color and making it even lighter here. What's interesting now is I'm gonna do another layer. I'm gonna take a hard brush. Of course, this is very art style dependent maybe, but now I'm gonna think about how this is gonna reflect on all the surfaces. Like it would reflect here a bit. It would make sense to add some sort of floor that he's standing on, right? Again, as I said, just think this shirt away because I know you do want it here, so of course he wouldn't be wearing a shirt, but this was just to demonstrate what a shirt would look like on him, if that is something you want to practice. We already did some airbrushing, right? We already gave some softer gradients, and then it's basically, you already did that, right? You have here the light side on the hair, so that is already very good. Good job here, that is exactly what I was talking about. You would have to do the same thing on the shirt, of course, but in your case, you did it on the muscles, basically. I just think, you know, you could actually go bigger with stuff like that, because from what I see, your lights here are very small and detailed. Depends, of course, on what you like, but I think you can go bigger with that, like bigger shapes like that, honestly, stuff like that. But then, like, don't do everything harsh. What I like to do is take a soft eraser and then blend some stuff out here like that, you know. I like having a combination of harsh edges and soft edges, so that is basically what I'm doing right now, because here it's hard, right? But here there's like a transition, so I like making it softer here. I just think you could go a bit bigger and extremer, honestly, because you do have a very strong light source here, so you can go very big and harsh with the shadows too if you want. What I'm doing here with the lighting could of course also be done with the shading. So if I take the skin color, you're generally doing very highly saturated stuff is what I'm noticing. A lot of the stuff is on this side of the color wheel, you know what I mean? Not here, but very much on this side. If you wanna try to set more focus on your pieces, you could maybe add more saturation to the stuff you really want to be the focus on and do less saturation in other places. For instance, you could do the background less saturated, a less saturated blue, for instance, but that is also a style choice, I will admit, so maybe you just like that. I would go a bit in a colder direction. If you do shadows, it's recommended to go colder from the color you're currently doing. You can't always do this, but a lot of times you will be on the safe side if you do it. But I see you're already doing that with the blue shadows, which also makes sense because we have a blue background. We always have to consider the environment our character is in, right? I would also do bigger shading, sort of. You're very focused on the details, which is not wrong in that sense. Also, I'm actually not so sure if all these muscles are that correct this way. I'd have to look up some reference too. I would recommend actually having a look at reference to be more correct maybe on where the muscles are placed. But I think you already have a pretty good idea. Like you have the shoulder blades here and stuff like that. It's just that the way you are drawing these lines, the muscles look very carved out because of the deep black lines. You could maybe, instead of doing these lines, you know, just do the shading. You know, if these lines weren't there, but I just did the shading and maybe I also blend them out a little like this in some areas, maybe that makes it look more like muscles instead of like scars and like carved out planes. But then again, that is also a style choice, I will admit that. Honestly, you could have given more light on his bum, because why not? That is how the light is shining on him. Yeah, stuff like that, you're already doing it good, but I just think your lighting and shading is very detailed. I'd love to see you dare to be more bold with this, honestly. I think you can go bolder with lighting. You would have some light also here, by the way, which you are missing here. Maybe not as extreme as on the right, so I will make that a bit less, honestly, but you know, I think you don't have that in your original, if I'm saying correctly. You would also have like a bit here, but not too much, stuff like that. Again, think away the shirt. That was just some brain fart. I guess. Yeah, I feel like you don't really have lighting on a shirt, and that's something I recommend here because I do think that adds a lot to first understanding that it is a shirt, but also to make it more understandable that there is a street light on the right of your piece. Generally, if you struggle with drawing clothes, which is what you mentioned, I think really adding shading and lighting to the clothes will help with that, because you can see here, like right now I'm imagining that this area here is going to be dark, honestly, and that these are standing out more. It's kind of my vision in my head. And then if I would take shading, I'm just going to take this color, make it darker, make it colder. I would add shading here basically, and then I would also blend out the shading here, maybe also blend out some of the lighting, and with that already helps make it clear that what you're drawing right here is folds. All the folds I'm doing here are not exactly correct either, to be honest. As I said, best way is to look up references. The further away from the light source here on the right you move, of course, the darker the lighting would also be. There would be a bit less intense lighting here. You might want to be even darker here because you're even further away from the light. What you can also do is add some indirect light, because you are in an environment where even though you have a light source here on the right, the light is not that static. It will bounce around the surface, and if we say we do have a blue background, we could imagine some bluish light bouncing off, or there being some indirect light also in this environment. So what I would do maybe is take some blue light, really take a soft round brush, not very strong at all. Like in these areas, you can add some blue light. Don't completely override the shadows with that, but yeah, basically this can emphasize the environment that the shirt is in. From what I recognize, you want there to be like dimension opening or something. Am I recognizing this correctly, that it is going into the void? Basically, is there like an opening in a space? I'm not sure if I understand that correctly. You might also just want to finish up the shirt, honestly. I don't really understand where the shirt is going to, if I'm being honest, but maybe that's just me. Maybe you have like a crate here or something. For instance, if this were to be a hole in the sky, then it might look more like an opening, sort of. I'm not sure. Maybe just draw a full shirt, honestly. If you want the shirt to be disappearing, honestly, you could also do that, of course. Then in that case, I would probably do something like that, so that it looks like it's a bit torn on the side. Maybe add some pieces here. You could also have that fade out more, you know, if that is something you want to go with. And then the final thing maybe I would recommend here is actually adding a shadow to him. If we say the light is right directly on the right to him, then he's going to have a very harsh shadow here on the floor, like this. You might be having a shadow here. The shadow is gonna be the darkest, like directly next to him, where the light is directly blocked. The further away the shadow gets, like over here, it's gonna scatter more, because the object that is casting the shadow is getting further away from the shadow, the further away you go. So there's more possibility for light to still kind of jump in, especially like all the indirect light. So I would erase a bit of the shadow here, basically. I also like to add some blurs to shadows, especially when they scatter more. You did, of course, also have the text. Sorry, I did overpaint that. You don't have to delete it or anything. Maybe there's just some better way you can integrate the text, honestly. Wait, what did it say? 4 is an unlucky number. Personally, I don't really like red on yellow here and then also the black behind the red. I realized you did that so that the text was easier to read here, but I just think it doesn't look that aesthetic to look at, this color combination. I know this color combination is not rare, it's used, especially like fast food brands like McDonald's use these colors, because from what I heard, yellow and red as a combination is supposed to make you hungry or stuff like that. I don't know how true that is too, but maybe we can integrate it differently, I'm not sure. This is just me, you don't have to do what I'm recommending here. If you wanna take the red, maybe make it darker. It's easier on the eye, because you already have a lot of saturated stuff in your work. Again, this is a lot about art style, but maybe you like this better, maybe you don't. That is also completely valid. I think you also wanted to go for a glowing look. Maybe you can still take this bright red color and place it inside these, you know, but have the border darker, stuff like that maybe. You could even do some white inside, then it looks a bit like it's glowing. You could also add some red airbrush behind or around it. I would do some darker red broadly, but then I would take some lighter red more on the inside and then almost white when you're like directly next to them. I know this is very messy how I'm doing it right now, but this would be a way to make it look glowy basically. But I just don't think I'm a fan of that, to place that in an already glowing area, because then you have something glowing on something glowing, you know? You might want to place it down here maybe or somewhere else against a darker background, because then the glowing effect is more amazing. Of course, this area down here isn't supposed to be pink. I just wanted you to be able to see it better. I would say this is already all of the tips I would give to KKami for his first piece. Maybe you like the original better, which is also completely fine. Maybe you did like some tips, maybe something here helped you. Let me know in the comments. That's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope that there were maybe 1 or 2 tips that you found helpful. Maybe you learned something new. If you did, let me know in the comments or which tip exactly helped you. Maybe also your piece was not in the video, but you're just someone who watched the video. Maybe you also took some learnings out of that. If so, let me know in the comments. That would of course make me super happy if that is the case. But you might also not like at all what I've been saying here. You might like your original better. Maybe you don't like my advice or tips I gave you here. It's more suggestions probably, and that is completely fine. You don't have to. I'm not a professional. You don't have to do what I'm telling you here. Take it all with a grain of salt. It's not guaranteed to be the right or wrong way or anything here, and a lot will in the end boil down to maybe your preference, your art style. I am of course biased because I have my personal art style or the stuff I enjoy in my art. I'm just self-taught. I'm talking from my own experience here, but if it did help you, that would of course make me super happy. And if you like this video format and would like to see more of that, let me know in the comments. Show it to me with a like. If you haven't already, of course, also make sure to follow me. You can also join the Discord server, especially if you don't feel comfortable sharing your art in a video format like this. Then you can also just share it in the art critique channel or really just any channel to just show off and get some praise by everyone there. That's also completely valid. We will try to give some tips and help you as well as we can, as far as possible, in a Discord server, right? If you would also like to get some advice in a video format like this one, then make sure to head to the description. I have a art submissions link. You can choose whether you want to get art advice, like in this video. You can choose to be roasted for fun. We already have 1 submission, but we need a few more so that it makes sense for me to make a video about it. I don't want to do like 10 minutes roasting only 1 piece. I think that would be a bit too awful probably. But yeah, only send for roasting if you can handle it, and you can also send for a free shoutout. I'm also usually live every Friday, every week now, so maybe I'll see 1 or 2 of you there. And with that, I'd say that's it for the video. See you next time!